Hi, I'm Mike Podgore,
Hello, and I'm Trevor Thomson.
and we are here with the second episode of Retro Revelations. As you can see, this time we are actually trying to be on video, like last time where we were just not. We'll be talking about the last time we talked about the Saban era, or not the Zordon era of Power Rangers, which was basically the first four iterations, and now we're going to be talking about the second four: Lost Galaxy, Lightspeed Rescue, Wild Force, and Time Force. Is
Yes,
that
sir.
right?
We're pretty much doing the second half of the first Saban era.
Yeah, before it went over to Disney.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So, which one was your favorite of the four? These four.
These four, it would actually be the first two we started with. It would be Lightspeed Rescue and Lost Galaxy. So they kind of flip flop as my favorites.
Yeah, I like that
Um,
Wild Force and Lost Galaxy, even though, like, the villains in the second half, I didn't find as intriguing as the first few seasons, the first few versions of Power Rangers.
yeah.
Like, there were some like henchmen and stuff that were fine, but like no one had the charisma of like Rita Repulsa or Lord Zed or Astronema or Divatox. But they were all better than Machine Empire, so that's good at least.
Yeah. At least there's an improvement in that regard.
So yeah, unlike the first four iterations, which kind of continued the story of the Power Rangers pretty cohesively, the second four were each their own seasons, and they are connected by crossovers and whatnot, but like they took a different route. They each one's about 40 episodes, and they just focus on one team of Rangers, and then they're done.
Yeah, they basically started doing what the Sentais do over in Japan, except about 10 episodes less. Because I mean that's all the same franchise, but each season or show over there is its own thing. It's pretty self-contained.
Yeah. So I guess we'll start off with Lost Galaxy, since that was the first one after In Space.
Yeah, it was kind of the addendum to the Zordon era.
Yeah, and it was weird because like suddenly Earth had interstellar capabilities. Like the plot of the season is that Earth is trying to make a colony somewhere out in space, and they're at this giant space station with an entire city in there because you have to have a city in Power Rangers to defend.
Sure.
And yeah, the Power Rangers are just on this space station drifting through space towards some unknown destination until we find out that we knew it the whole time.
Hmm. Well,
And
it's a funny thing because in space pretty much saved the franchise, and the next Sentai they had to adapt was like an animal themed one, so that had nothing to do with space. So they basically had to write in this whole space subplot because they thought, well, going to space is what saved us, so we have to keep doing that.
I mean, they made it work to a
They
degree.
did. They did.
And like this one, they got their powers from swords and a stone. So a
Mm.
lot of mythological stuff there.
Oh yeah, very King Arthur.
And who are the villains? It was that like weird bug guy, right?
Yeah, hold on, I got the page up here. I remember
Okay.
Trakina. I remember Trakina. She was the daughter of.
Yeah.
He wasn't
I like
even.
Jarkina.
Yeah, he wasn't even really the main villain because he got killed off. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. Yeah, there's
how you
going to
gonna?
be spoilers here.
Yeah, Scorpius. There we go.
Yeah. And he was kind of disgusting, honestly. He was really gross.
Yeah, he was pretty gross.
And
That'd be an interesting story how Turkina got here
yeah.
from that.
And like there were a bunch of subplots with like his lieutenants and generals fighting each other and trying to usurp him and everything. Like this is a season that they really started going hard on all the henchmen nonsense.
Oh, I actually like that because, and you've told me that you kind of like the
Yeah,
idea of
yeah,
all them trying to play against each other,
yeah.
pretty much.
Like I think in a few other seasons they did it too much, but here they struck a good balance.
Well, and there were even some that you kind of felt sympathy for because they had like their own codes of honor and whatnot.
Yeah. And then there were like 5 or 6 episodes where they actually went to the Lost Galaxy, and like the villain became this guy who was like a pirate ship.
Yes, and on the Sentai, that was the main guy the whole time.
Yeah. And that was like a weird aside. It's like, oh no, we have to incorporate the actual stuff we're adapting. So,
Well, it was probably a case of they tried to do as much original stuff as possible, but then they realized, okay, at some point we're going to have to use more of the Sentai footage.
yeah. Like
So then they did.
I don't think how they did things a pirate guy could have carried a whole season. I don't remember his name. Like after it was not clear after the Zordon era, my ability to remember most of these names and stuff have kind of fallen by the wayside. I remember general descriptions of everybody.
Oh yeah, if you're going through it for the first time and you haven't done like a rewatch, I don't blame you for not remembering every single bit.
Yeah. I'll bring up thing. Oh, you're still in the corner there. That's good.
Yeah. Although when we did the test, we're both side by side whenever I watch the video back.
Yeah, yeah, which is good.
Yeah.
We're not gonna cut any of this. We're gonna be like, oh, we're talking about tests and everything. Um, yeah, yeah. The five Rangers were Leo Corbett, he was a stowaway. He wasn't supposed to be on the ship, but he kind of stuck on there. And that guy was a Red Ranger. Kai Chen, the Blue Galaxy Ranger, was like, he was part of the ship's crew, a navigator or something like that, right?
Yes, I do believe so. And this also kind of started a trend for, I think, at least the next, starting with this one and then up to Time Force, they had an Asian Blue Ranger.
Yeah,
Something I.
yeah. And Maya, the Yellow Galaxy Ranger, who was she's from the planet the swords are from, and she's kind of this Tarzan, Sheena, the she devil, Khazar kind of character.
Yes, pretty much a girl straight out of the jungle.
And then there's a Kendricks, who is a scientist on the ship, and she is the first Pink Galaxy Ranger because she actually kind of dies like halfway through the season and is replaced by Carone, the former astronomer.
Yes, sir.
Because you
And
said that she had leukemia, right?
yes, the actress Valerie Vernon, she had leukemia, and at some point in the filming, it got to a point where they thought she was going to be terminal, so they basically killed her off on the show.
Yeah, and then she came back at the end.
Yeah, because her
She got
treatments
better.
in yeah, her treatments in working, and then it's like, oh, never mind, sorry, Crone.
Which is good because I mean, like, uh I like Kendricks the most out of this group.
Yeah, and it also allowed the show to kind of address the theme of death, which they really
Yeah,
hadn't done.
not really. I mean, I think like Zordon died,
Oh
but
yeah,
other than
that,
him, and then Like the sixth ranger was a Magna Defender who also died. Like he okay, there were two guys that called the Magna Defenders. It was basically the sixth ranger for this iteration, and it was this. Like he was a warrior, and he lost his son, and he was really revenge driven, and he had a giant bull. But yeah, the Zords in this one were actual animals they tamed or whatever and turned into robots sometimes.
Yeah, they basically got a robot upgrade because I noticed in the Sentais, the animal mechas usually aren't actually robots, even though they look like robots, which is real weird.
Yeah,
Because like Jew Ranger, which is the source for Mighty Morphin, uh, those were supposed to be gods and not like mechs or anything. So it was interesting how with Gingaman and Lost Galaxy, they actually address the fact that, oh, these things are living before they take on some kind of mechanical upgrade, which I liked.
yeah. His name was the guy's name was Mike Corbett,
Yes,
which
he was Leo's brother, Red Ranger's brother.
yeah, he almost died in the first episode, but then he obviously didn't die. But
Yeah,
do you think his name is a reference to Mystery Science Theater?
I have no idea. That's a good question.
Because I mean they're in space, they're trapped on a space station.
Yeah, yeah,
Like it's probably not, but it'd be funny if it is.
it would be.
And then like in the first few episodes, they had Skull and the professor from In Space show
Mhm.
up, and it made it seem like they were going to be a big thing, but then they weren't.
Well, yeah. Again, it was kind of that whole making sure they tied it into what they considered pretty much the savior season.
Yeah, yeah, and then like they make a bunch of like the whole time they're like, oh man, we can't get back to Earth. We can't get back to Earth. We can't get back to Earth. It's too far. We can't get back to Earth. But the Power Rangers just go back to Earth whenever they want to, pretty much.
Which is weird. Although,
Yeah,
I think, I mean, they're supposed to be on the space colony the whole time, I do believe.
yeah, they are. But then there's that one episode with that one kid who stowed away,
Okay, that's right. That's
and
right.
they're like, oh yeah, we'll just take him back to Earth. No big deal.
No big
And
deal,
then
even though it's light years away or something.
yeah, and then they had the crossover with In Space and Andros and Cassie, and them just show up out of the blue to
Yeah.
help with why were they there? What was their goal? What were they
I
doing?
The Psycho Rangers came back,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
and pretty much because the Space Rangers had dealt with them before. I mean, I guess they were the uh, the veterans when it came to battling the Psycho Rangers, which
Yeah.
they were one of my favorite parts of In Space. It
Yeah,
was
they
not.
were I like them.
They were a lot better than Lord Zed's Dark Rangers, which were basically some putties or whatever that were wearing pantyhose,
Yeah.
colored panty. That's what it looked like.
Yeah, like it seems like they bring in extra rangers, not extra rangers, evil rangers a lot. But like the
Yeah.
Psycho Rangers were the best iteration of those.
Oh, for sure. Even after this,
Yeah. Right. Uh who was your favorite ranger from this bit?
from this bit, well, I did say I wanted to try and pick two. So my choices would probably be Maya, who was yellow, and I liked Leo. He was a pretty good Red Ranger.
Yeah. Like none of the rangers in this bit were bad, but like yeah, my favorite was Kendrick's and
Yeah.
Corone. So I
You know,
guess I
I
have two, but they're the same color.
I did like them too. Between the two of those, did you favor one more than the other of the pinks?
Hmm. I think I like Kendrick's just a little bit more. I like Corone as a character,
Yeah. It was a nice development.
Yeah, I like seeing her come back and kind of redeem herself.
Yes.
But yeah, I like Kendrick's. Like
Out
she
of the,
fulfilled the Billy quotient without being as nerdy as Billy, I guess.
an obvious cliche.
Yeah,
She had a bit more charm to her, you could say, probably.
yeah. Okay. So let's move on to Lightspeed Rescue. I mean, this is actually easier than with the Zordon era since things don't bleed together. So we could just,
Yeah.
when we're done talking about one, we can just move to the other one.
Yeah.
And yeah, Lightspeed Rescue. Like you said, that Lightspeed Rescue was one of your favorite ones.
Well, yeah. So what I was trying to say earlier, I think it kind of got lost in translation. My two favorites of these four that we're talking about would be Lost Galaxy and Lightspeed Rescue, but I would put Rescue before Lost Galaxy. And I guess the reason for that is because to me, there's just something so bizarrely appealing about rescue workers with superpowers fighting demons, basically.
Yeah, it has a really good premise. Like my, like this one made me realize that like more, I don't like the
Vehicle.
Power Rangers when they're like employed by the government or whatever.
Ah, yes, this one and then Time Force. They're officially sanctioned, I guess you'd say.
Yeah, it happens a few other times, I think, too, later on,
Yeah,
but we'll get to that later.
yeah.
And like especially the fact that they don't have secret identities in this one. They're just walking around and be like, "Oh, it's that guy. He's the Red
He's a
Power Ranger."
yeah.
Yeah, okay. And this one we have Carter Grayson, the Red Lightspeed Ranger, who is a firefighter.
Yes.
Chad Lee, the Blue Lightspeed Ranger, who what was his thing? He was
He
like
was
a scuba diver
he
and
was
stuff, right?
yeah, yeah. He was a swim.
Yeah, something to do with water because he
Yeah,
was blue.
yeah.
Joel
A
Rawlings.
lifeguard, probably. I think
Hmm?
a lifeguard. I think he was a lifeguard.
Yeah, something like that. Joel
Yeah.
Rawlings, the Green Lightspeed Ranger. Oh, he was like he wasn't even a rescue worker. He was just some he was a stunt pilot.
Yes. Yes.
And he had a really bad subplot going for him. We'll talk about that in a second. Kelsey Winslow, who was a mountain climber, she was a yellow Lightspeed Ranger. And Dana
Mhm.
Mitchell, who was a pink Lightspeed Ranger, and she was an EMT.
Yes. Yes.
And then Ryan Mitchell, a titanium ranger, who was I liked his story. He was okay. So the Zordon in this one, like Lost Galaxy didn't really have a Zordon equivalent.
Well, there's Captain Mitchell, but he's not an intergalactic being. He's just like I believe he's either a former firefighter or he has some military connections through most of the show.
Yeah, he is a former firefighter. I
Yeah.
because he rescued Carter
When
earlier
he
in
was
life and
yeah.
inspired Carter to be that, to be a firefighter too.
Yes.
Yeah, and like he's there's Zordon, and he's the father of Ryan and Dana, and like Ryan's whole thing is that at one point the whole family fell over a cliff, and Captain Mitchell could only save Dana, and Ryan was saved by the demons who they fight in this.
So basically, for those listening, Ryan is a new Tommy
Yeah,
Phoenix.
and he's like not even on the show for a lot of time.
Well, there's a reason for that because I don't know if you knew this, but there wasn't a Titanium Ranger on the Sentai. He was the first American exclusive Ranger.
Oh, that makes sense.
So all the footage with him was shot over here.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
And yeah, the villains were demons trying to bring back their demon queen. And there's a lot of infighting and backstabbing and stuff, and it was pretty interesting.
I thought the demons were pretty visually impressive, most of them.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the
Liking.
suits in this one were like they were really bringing it with the suits this time. The
And
Zords. Oh, you go first.
yeah. So the Ranger this time around, the Sixth Ranger was the American exclusive, but the villains, this was the first time they had been dubbed since Zeo with the Machine Empire. There wasn't any American exclusives, so that was a nice flip flop.
Yeah, but the Zords, I wasn't too impressed with the Zords this time around.
I don't know. I mean, they're still vehicles, but I don't know. It's like them being super vehicles is different from like just a regular hot rod or something.
Yeah, it's better than Turbo.
Yeah, yeah.
It's far better than Turbo.
And even Turbo, their second set of Zords, they were kind of rescue themed, and I preferred those to the first set.
Yeah, I just prefer my Zords to be like creatures instead of just vehicles and guys.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's my preference too. But in this case, and later down the road when we get to Operation Overdrive, there's just something uh, special about them that just doesn't feel ordinary.
Yeah,
At least,
yeah. So my favorite villain in this one was Vipra, and I did check her out online, and she has a fan following,
oh
which
yeah,
yeah, I mean it's pretty obvious why.
oh well, yeah. Ooh la
Yeah,
la.
yeah, yeah. She's pretty much eye candy. I mean she's evil,
Yes, yes.
but yeah, that's
And also on the Sentai, that character was also somebody out of a suit, but she was a different actress,
yeah.
obviously.
Yeah. Okay, so the Green Ranger's subplot that I didn't really like was he really wanted to date the scientist who created. Oh yeah, this one is also the first one where the Zords are man-made and like they tapped into the morphin grid with science and not magic.
Yeah, there's a fan theory out there that it seems like everything goes back to Billy because he was the brain. They think that Billy probably made all these connections for people outside of that original group. Like he worked for the government in some capacity and gave them notes and whatnot. It's not confirmed, but it's just something that people put out there.
And even if he didn't, Tommy could have because I mean we're not gonna get to in this podcast, but like we see Tommy later being able to tap into the morphin grid too.
Well, yeah, he's kind of sort of the Zordon later on, but like you
Yeah,
said, we'll get.
yeah,
So the
yep.
subplot you're talking about, Mrs. Fairweather, she's the one who basically designs most, if not all, the Zords. She had a romance with Joel.
Well, it was really one-sided until the last
Yeah,
episode,
yeah,
and it was really hard to watch because it was clear that she wanted nothing to do with him,
yeah,
but he would not take the hint. Then all of a sudden, in the last episode, like, oh yeah,
yeah.
let's
So change
get
my mind.
together.
Yeah,
I will reward you for your creepy persistence, Joel.
yeah,
And then they get married.
of course. So I guess they're falling back on the whole. Some women like to be chased. In theory, I guess you'd
Yeah,
say.
yeah, it's just kind of skeevy, really. So, who's
Yeah.
your favorite ranger from this grouping?
I want to say the Mitchell siblings, Dana and Ryan, pink and titanium, but I also like Kelsey,
Yeah,
yellow. But
yeah, I
that's
like
about,
Kelsey.
yeah,
Like I didn't think it was going to at first, but then she like won me over with her personality and everything.
yeah.
I did
She
not
just
like
had,
Joel.
yeah, she had a very, Kelsey had a very down to earth quality to her,
Yeah,
which usually it seems like that's how the yellows go, except for Turbo and Space. They kind of did a flip flop with the cliche popular girl. not being pink, but then she was yellow because Ashley,
Yeah.
uh, she was kind of that character. Then Cassie, she was the more down to earth one. She was pink.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna talk about the mermaid.
Oh yeah, you did mention that. That was
Yeah.
it was connected to Chad, I
Yeah.
believe.
Like this was a series where they reveal that mermaids exist on the Power Rangers Earth, and so does Poseidon. They're just kind of there.
Yeah, there was. I think there was some kind of connection to the Zords, maybe, or something. There was. They had like a little subplot with Poseidon, or was it just mentioned in the Mermaid episode? Do you
Well,
remember?
like there are two mermaid episodes. The first one was just like, oh yeah, there's a mermaid,
That's
and
a.
the bad guys used a mermaid to try and get the Power Rangers. And then the second one, the mermaid was revealed to be the daughter of Poseidon, and the bad guys stole Poseidon's power, so they needed to get it back for him.
Yeah.
And it's just the whole time is like, so mermaids are real on this planet.
Well, I mean, I guess if demons are, might as well throw mermaids in there, right?
Yeah, yeah. And yet, in one episode, the crossover episode, because for a little while there's a tradition where the Power Rangers cross over with the previous iteration, and
Hmm.
this time they crossed over with Lost Galaxy. And during that crossover, some lady has the nerve to say, "Monsters aren't real."
Okay, then. Tell that to Angel Grove.
Yeah, or the city where, oh, I guess Lost Galaxy took place in Terra Ventura, which is now light years away.
Yeah.
Which also brings up, like, the Power Rangers are just able to come back from there pretty quick.
Oh, I should mention about Terra Venture. I don't know if the comics are considered canon with the show, even though they kind of use the show as a jumping off part uh, or base. Uh, but in those comic books, Zordon had a team back in the 1960s. And the Red Ranger, who was a woman, she ended up working for a government organization, and they were involved in the development of Terra Venture. They
Okay.
didn't name it, but they had plans for it.
All
I,
right.
re- I recently found that out. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's like the comics kind of sometimes do a little bit of the legwork that the show couldn't do in explaining stuff. So
Yeah.
that's why it's so good, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, yeah, and this one, the crossover was when Trakina came back, and they had to deal with her.
Yeah, and she was full on monster, I do believe.
Yeah, because who knows why? Probably because they couldn't get the old actress or something.
Well, now that we're talking about it, I do remember that kind of her arc through Lost Galaxy was that she slowly was losing her humanity, and
Yeah.
she chose that because she pretty much just wanted power.
Yeah.
So I think definitely by the end of Lost Galaxy, she was full on creature.
Yeah. It is a different actress too, so probably
Yes,
bit of A, bit of B.
I seem to remember liking this crossover.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I like the action and whatnot, and just their interactions.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still super weird for like at this point at the end of the season, it's well, I guess in this one they show the Power Rangers grabbing the swords out of the stone and getting their powers back.
Yeah,
So
yeah, I see where you're going because it was kind of a theme that they would, whenever they wrapped up this.
at this point, the audio cuts out, but Trevor was talking about how at the end of each season, the Power Rangers would lose the ability to morph, but this would easily be undone whenever it was convenient for the writers in later seasons and episodes. Yeah, and we'll get
So,
to a big one. Like we're gonna get to a big one at the end of this, but we'll
yeah,
save it for later.
yeah.
Okay, so anything else to say about Lightspeed Rescue?
No, not at the moment, but I just remember it being it just really stuck out to me. I'm
Yeah,
sure if I rewatch it, I'll probably notice some of the things you pointed out, but you know.
yeah, like I liked it. It was good. Just like the whole them being not having secret identities and being government operatives and stuff.
Yeah.
Like
It's
the ending, the last two episodes, they really started just making those really count because like they destroyed the base, they started destroying everything really.
mhm.
The stakes were really high.
Oh yeah, that becomes a trend from Lost. Well, really with In Space through the rest of the Saban era.
Yeah. Yeah, like then in space, I had everybody.
Yeah. Vulcan Skull found out who the Rangers were, although it
Yeah.
wasn't the original Mighty Morphin.
No.
That's something I was wondering is if they thought that that particular group had been the Power Rangers the whole time.
I well we'll talk about this when we get to it, but I think
Yeah,
after that they found out who the
yeah,
original Rangers
I
were.
yeah, I see where you're going. I got you.
Yeah. Okay. So next up is Time Force.
Time Force. Yes, a very fan favorite.
Is it?
It is, yeah, and it's they mostly focus on the storytelling.
Yeah, the storytelling was good,
Yeah,
but I did not like the fact that it's called Time Force, but they only travel in time like twice.
yeah, yeah,
It's like if you call it Time Force, I expect you to be going hither and yon across time and space, not just going back in time once and staying there until the end of the series and then popping back when you need to.
So I'm glad you mentioned that because I said that there was something outside the shows, but officially sanctioned by Saban that actually addresses your concerns.
Okay.
So there is an RPG game called Power Rangers Hyperforce, and they actually turned it into a show on Twitch, and they also upload to YouTube. And basically, the premise of Hyperforce is that it's a direct sequel to Time Force, and we have a bunch of new cadets, for their future organization, and they are tasked with fighting against a alliance of evil. And so their plot does involve them going back through time to various seasons at certain points and interacting with those rangers.
Okay. So they kind of did the premise justice later. Like in the opening sequence, they show them doing stuff in a bunch of different time periods. But then later you find out it's just from three episodes. One where they do go back in time, I guess, to get the
Yeah.
Quantum Ranger powers. And then all the other clips are from these two episodes where they're fighting a monster who's like a camera and making a movie. So it's all just movie sets.
Yeah.
So it's very much of a tease, very much a tease there.
Well, now that I think about it, I think what they said is basically these Rangers stayed behind in the present, which at the time was 2001, and they were supposed to make sure that the main villain, Rancic, who was
Yeah,
another American-made character, they were trying to make sure that he didn't disrupt the time flow.
yeah,
So that I guess that was their plot device for making sure they didn't have to keep on going back and forth.
yeah. They had a reason for staying back in 2001, but at the same point, it's like I expect at least a little bit of time travel.
Yeah, no, I hear you. That's why I was kind of so excited to find out about Hyperforce, even though it's just an RPG show. Uh, it still kind of addresses that, like, hey, let's jump back and forth. But when they did this show, there had been like, well, I'm reading it right now. It was part of the 25th anniversary, so there was a bunch of seasons that they could jump back to and have some kind of subplot.
Yeah, Yeah, and I did like Rancic and his daughter as villains. I think they that whole thing where like the Time Force were from some year in the future. I don't remember which year.
The year 3000, I do believe.
Yeah, and like humans had been genetically perfected, and then you had Rancic who was a mutant,
Yes.
and he was fighting for like mutant rights. But
Hey, it's the X-Men.
yeah, pretty much. Except he's just a bad dude.
He's a gnarly looking Magneto.
Yeah, and like I liked his was Frax his robot assistant?
Yes, and turns out in flashbacks we find out that he was the doctor who failed to cure Rancic's condition.
Yeah,
So I can't remember. I don't think he killed. Well, there was like an accident that I think killed the doctor,
yeah,
and
and he
then
went into that
uh,
body because
then
Frax also made the putty equivalent in this, which were just robots.
Chrono something.
Yeah. Okay, and then the Rangers in this one were Wes Collins, who was he was he was from the present day.
Yes.
So this was the first of many seasons where the Red Ranger was just like some newbie who they brought in and were like, "Oh, you're red, so you're the leader now."
Which is funny when you think about it, because there's this established team, and then they just pick this rando guy to end up being their
Yeah,
leader. But it kind of creates an interesting dynamic.
yeah,
So,
and
so basically, since we're talking about Wes, the Pink and Red Rangers from the year 3000, Alex Collins and Jen Scotts, they have a romance going. And at the start of Time Force, Alex is in an accident and presumed to be dead. And then whenever they go back to the present, 2001, and after they recruit Wes, well, Wes is Alex's ancestor, and
yeah,
so they're played by the same actor, Jason Font.
yeah, and they're
Who's
forced to use him as a Red Ranger.
yeah, and over the course of the season, basically Jen and Wes develop this romance, and then later on we find out that Alex is actually still alive and quite douchey.
Yeah, yeah.
So
There's
that
so many of those characters in this. Like Wes's father was the Sixth Ranger in this was Eric Myers, the Quantum Ranger. He was the worst.
yeah, he was a real jerk. Yeah, Wes's father had a unit, the Silver Guardians, and Eric, the Quantum Ranger, who's the Sixth Ranger in a darker shade of red, basically. Uh, there's some tension between him and Wes because it's almost like a Harry Osborn, Peter Parker thing with Norman Osborn,
Yeah,
a little bit.
yeah. With some class warfare going on too, because Wes was born into money and Eric was poor.
Yeah, it came from nothing. That old kind of cliche, but sometimes it's a pretty good dramatic thing
Yeah,
tidbit.
yeah. But while Wes's father had kind of a character arc where he became less of a jerk,
Yeah,
Eric, the Quantum Ranger, just never really stopped being a jerk. Like he started being more heroic, but it was also always like, oh man, I'm saving you, but I don't want to.
he was basically a useful jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then we had Trip, the Green Time Force Ranger, who was an alien.
yeah, and I believe he had psychic abilities. I think
Yeah.
that was he had green hair too.
Yeah. Yeah. He was my favorite from this one.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
there was the episode early on that focused on him. That one just really kind of rubbed me wrong because it was such a kind of corny. I don't know. I should probably rewatch it at some point, but that it just kind of it's probably what kind of threw me off this season for a little bit, and I kind of put it away before I came back to it.
Yeah.
But did you like that one? That episode that
I don't
focused on
remember
him?
which episode you're talking about.
There was
Like,
he was basically doing everything wrong the entire course of the episode, so he was feeling kind of down in the dumps.
oh, the episode where like all the kids were pretending to be Power Rangers, and then no one wanted to be Green Ranger.
I believe so. Yeah.
I didn't like that. I did not like that episode. No.
Yeah. See, that's what kind of put me off because I got to that point. I was like, this is just really hammy.
Yeah. Yeah, like that episode did not
With
endear me to Trip, but over the course of the other episodes, I liked him more and more.
you know, it's funny that I say that because Power Rangers in general is hammy, but just the way they did that, I don't know. It was bad.
It was reminiscent of the Next Mutation, honestly.
Yeah. And
Like
see, I
next,
haven't.
like you say, it's hammy, and Next Mutation is a whole hog.
Yeah, or maybe not just hammy, but I don't know. There was just something off about it, and I was like, I'm not feeling this.
Yeah. And then we had Katie Walker, the Yellow Time Force Ranger, who had super strength.
Yes, and
That
I feel that was maybe was trying to address the fact that so there's this thing with the Sentais where a lot of the Yellow Rangers are actually dudes,
Yeah.
and that pink or white is usually the female. So, you know, like with Mighty Morphin, that was a young dude, and Trini wasn't really. It was a young dude on the Sentai.
Yeah.
Trini wasn't. She didn't have the major feminine curves, I guess you'd say. So they kind of got away with explaining that tomboyish look, I suppose you'd say.
Yeah.
And then with this one, this is a big actor in the suit, I do believe. So that's why they had Katie, be this real tall, and then she had this stronger physical strength.
It just reminds me of Justin.
Yeah.
About how when he morphed, he grew like twice his height.
Yeah, because it was an actual an adult on the Sentai.
Yeah.
So it's one of them weird things.
And then there was Lucas Kendall, the Blue Time Force Ranger, who I don't remember anything about.
Okay, so since how I finished this not too long ago, and they touched on it again, he was basically a little narcissistic.
I remember that part.
He was kind of full of himself.
Yeah. Was that it? Was that his whole thing?
That's the thing that I remember the most about.
And they had this owl that I thought was going to get really annoying, but he was okay.
Yeah, Circuit, the alpha of the season.
Yeah, like I thought he was going to be terrible, but he turned out to not be that bad.
Yeah, I mean it's funny. Some people probably are irritated with Alpha, but over the course of the show, it becomes that beloved character.
Yeah,
and I'd say Circuit has a little bit of that going on.
Yeah, and the crossover with Lightspeed Rescue was only one episode, and it was really, really quick. Like Viper came back from the grave because they killed her in Lightspeed Rescue. They killed a lot of the enemies in that one. Like they just demons killed demons, Power Rangers killed demons, demons just died, and it ended up with the crossover story with Viper rising from the grave.
Yeah, they didn't get a Zordon good energy wave. They just need to be. They just need to be exterminated, I guess.
Yeah. And I don't remember the Zords from this one. I think they were just like.
Oh yeah, I was about to bring that up. They're they're basically multicolored jets, and you only see them like really briefly. And they have two different Megazord combinations: a red mode and a blue mode.
Yeah, I think this was the season where they started not really using the Zords all that much and just going right to Megazord.
Well, yeah, pretty much because the individual Zords really didn't have anything unique about them, other than
Yeah,
the fact that it's multicolored.
the
As,
Quantum Ranger had like an actual Tyrannosaurus Rex Zord, so I liked his
yeah,
the most.
yeah, the Quantosaurus. I did like him.
Yeah,
This is another improvement from Hyperforce is that for whatever reason that second Time Force team they have a Greek mythology theme.
yeah,
So all
that's a
these
lot
are
better.
yeah all their Zords like the Black Ranger. She's a she. That's like a first for Power Rangers. She has a Cerberus Zord, and they have a Green Ranger that eventually shows up, and he has a Hydra.
Yeah,
So cool stuff like
that is cool. Yeah,
yeah,
I like that a lot more than just random jets.
yeah, for sure. The Zords really just were kind of boring for Time Force, and
Yeah,
I hate to say this, but a lot of times the theme and the Zords kind of make or break a season of Power Rangers for me.
yeah. I mean, Turbo.
Yeah, yeah. Cars or jets that are kind of boring. You know, that's no bueno.
Yeah, I think like we were talking about our favorite seasons before, and I think I put this pretty low on my list of the first 8.
Which is probably should the fandom find our video, that's probably going to be a little controversial
Yeah, they're not gonna like me.
for me because I will admit that I do like a lot of the dramatic beats. I like what they were trying to do, and I think that it is fairly effective. But this was still one of the seasons that it took me a while to finish. I actually stopped watching this one in Wild Force, and I moved on to the Disney era, and I kind of just blew through that.
Yeah,
That's how much I like those.
yeah. Okay, well now we're gonna move on to Wild Force, which, like, I think of these 4, I put this. Yeah, I put this right below Lost Galaxy in my list, but really they're interchangeable, kinda.
Yeah, you like this probably a little bit more than I do.
Yeah, the Zords were a lot better. Like,
Well, yeah, because they were animal themed.
yeah, they're animal themed, and like as you were saying before, in like the Sentai series, the animal Zords were actual animals, and they kind of went full tilt with this. And
They
they
were
had
actually,
this CGI to make the Zords actual characters, which was
yeah.
interesting.
I mean, it was fairly cheap CGI, but I didn't mind it.
Yeah, it was better than the 1995 movie, honestly.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, and I like the villains in this one too. I didn't like the main villain, but he had 2
Master,
henchmen who were good.
yeah. Uh, Gindrax and Toxica.
Yeah, I like Toxica. I liked her. And then the Master Org was the main villain, which is just kind of, yeah. It was, this whole season had like a Captain Planet kind of feel to it.
Yeah, the Red Ranger was basically Tarzan.
Yeah, we'll talk about him later.
Yeah.
Or we'll talk about him now, who is Cole Evans, the Red Lion Wild Forest Ranger, and I did not like him at all. Like in
Yeah.
Lightspeed, not Lightspeed, in Lost Galaxy, you had Maya, who was another character who came from the jungle and kind of had culture shock. And I liked her. But then you have
Well,
Cole Evans, who is pretty much the same thing, and he's just insufferable about it.
here's the thing: the difference between Maya and Cole, I feel, is that one is a very gorgeous, down to earth woman, and the other is kind of not really obnoxious, but he just kind of. How would you describe him?
Extra.
Yeah, extra.
I think
Kind of, kind
I think that's what the kids say. Like, there was an episode where, like, all the rest of the Rangers were just talking about things,
yeah. And he
and
was
Cole was in a tree,
listening.
and you see the tree, like, he's like maybe 4 feet above them.
Yeah,
Instead of just like jumping down the tree, he swings on a vine to them.
yeah.
It's like, we get it. You're this nature guy. You don't have to rub in our faces so much.
Yeah.
And again, he's a Red Ranger. He's this guy who just comes out of the jungle to the city. He's climbing on lampposts. He's talking to dogs. And like
He's in
all the
love with.
rest of the Rangers are like, well, not all the rest of the Rangers, but the Yellow Ranger, Taylor
Uh,
Taylor Earhart, which is she's a pilot, so that name's on the nose.
yeah.
And she's the
And she had
Yellow
sword.
Eagle Flower Forest Ranger. And she was like she went AWOL to join the Power Rangers pretty much.
Yeah, from the Air Force.
Yeah. And she really doesn't like the Red Ranger at first. And she's fully justified. I think we're supposed to sympathize with Cole here, but no, the Yellow Ranger is fully in the right here.
Well, I can understand where she's coming from
Yeah.
because, to a degree, I mean, before he shows up, she's kind of the leader because she has that background that kind of justifies her being the one in command.
Yeah, and she was the first one too.
Yeah.
And this guy comes in and they're like, oh yeah, he has to be the leader. Like Taylor is fully justified in not liking him at all.
Yeah. That's something that I think the show could probably play around with more is that they don't necessarily have to have Red be the leader.
Yeah.
Although they kind of technically did that with Mighty Morphin because when Tommy came back as White, he was the leader. And
Yeah.
in Rocky, definitely uh, wasn't really leader material. So that's that nobody questioned that.
Yeah. Like at first because like it became later when Jason was still around. So it was kind of bad for Jason for a little bit, but then Jason left and Rocky showed up and it was like, yeah, gotta be leader, Tommy. That's
Yeah.
great. And then we had Max Cooper, the Blue Shark. Oh yeah, this is one of the first ones where they had superpowers based on their Zords or whatever.
Yeah, they're I guess they're spirit animal to a degree.
Yeah, like
Uh,
Mac. You go
Go
first.
ahead. Oh no, I was just going to say I think this was the first sign of the Disney influence because all throughout the Disney era, for the most part, uh, or actually I think through the whole way through, uh, the Rangers have some kind of special ability outside of their morphed
Yeah.
uniform.
They also always have motorcycles. Every team of Rangers has motorcycles.
The motorcycles are cool.
I mean, I guess. Yeah, we have something to talk about after we talk about the Rangers here. Yeah, there's Max Cooper, who's a Blue Shark Ranger.
Yes.
Danny Delgado, who's a Black Bison Ranger, which interesting choice of animal there. Like they
Yeah.
just gone with a bull or something, but no, they went bison.
Bison. And
And yet,
I'm not sure if that's the case on the Sentai or not. But go ahead.
oh yeah, did you have a favorite Ranger from Time Force?
Oh, that's right. Let's see. Even though he was a jerk, because he had the best sword, I liked Eric, Quantum Ranger. And as a second pick, of the two girls, and this will probably be controversial too, I preferred Katie to Jen. Because, Jen was technically supposed to be the leader.
Yeah. And I like Katie more than Jen too. Jen just something about her rubbed me the wrong way.
She was a little bitchy for a while.
Yeah. Okay, and then we have Alissa, the White Tiger Ranger.
Yeah.
She was my favorite from this era.
Yeah, I would actually say it was both the girls this time around that I liked the best.
Yeah.
Yellow and white.
And then you had the sixth ranger here was a Lunar Wolf Ranger. And he
Yes.
was okay, so the premise of this show past the whole Captain Planet thing where they were fighting pollution monsters basically was that there was like some ancient civilization called uh I had the Animarium.
Yeah.
And there was this war between like the monsters and the Power Ranger thing, and the
It was
princess
based,
went to sleep
yeah. I
for
think
three
that
thousand years.
I think that was also some of the Disney influence. That's what kind of reminded me of some Disney tropes.
Yeah,
So basically, it's the people who lived on the Animarium, which is basically a floating island in the sky that is in the shape of a turtle.
yeah, and
And,
there's animals on, not animals, but Zord animals.
yeah, it's a sentient Zords, and they were fighting against the Orgs,
Yeah,
which are monsters that all have a horn coming out of their head, which is like their weak spot.
and yeah, and during the course of the season, they find more Zords, and for a while, it looks like the Megazords just kind of like every time a new Zord pops in, it looked like they just added another face to this Megazord. At one point, it had like 8 faces on it, 8 animal faces.
Well, it seemed like they just added Zords that would be like supplements to or auxiliary to the main Megazord.
Yeah,
But eventually, they did. Each group did have their own Megazord, which I kind of
yeah.
like because I do believe Wild Force probably has the most Megazords, the most Zords, and therefore the most Megazords.
I mean, that seems like the case. Yeah,
It's quite an arsenal if you think about it.
yeah. And didn't Cole Evans or Ricardo Medina Jr., who played him, didn't he get arrested for murder?
He
Wasn't he
did.
that guy?
He is. I there was some controversy because spoiler alert, he doesn't come back as a ranger, but he comes back as a villainous character later on. I don't know if that's subtext or not. Well, no, his name's right here. I guess I can look it up. I don't know if that whole thing happened before he was asked back to the franchise.
Yeah, I
But
don't
yeah,
know.
he did. He did kill somebody or was arrested.
Yeah, for
Let's
like manslaughter or something, like kill him with a samurai sword or something.
okay,
Hey,
okay, yeah. So
okay,
this was. Go ahead.
okay. I'm looking. I have him on Wikipedia. He is currently in prison for voluntary manslaughter. So
Yeah, I have it
his
up.
appearance in second appearance in Power Rangers was before that. I don't think they would let him out to do Power Rangers.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know, but sometimes people get away with weird stuff. So,
Yeah. No, he pled guilty, so they put him in jail.
yeah, he fatally stabbed his roommate with a katana.
Yeah.
Wow. You don't hear that every day.
Nope. Yeah, I like their crossover with Time Force because it kind of tied up a lot of the stuff that Time Force kind of left. Because
Oh,
at the
yeah,
end of Time Force, the Time Force Rangers went back to their own time
yeah,
without Wes. So the first part of the Time Force crossover here, like it's just Wes and the Quantum Ranger because they're from this time, so like there is just them for a little while, and then when the rest of the Time Force Rangers comes, it's like, oh yeah, they're back. They came
yeah,
back to help.
yeah. Something happened that we didn't see to get him back.
Yeah, I think they just came back.
Well, yeah, it seemed like they were pretty willing because definitely by the end of Time Force, you got the impression that they really connected with, well, mostly with Wes, but they seemed to really become acclimated to uh, the present.
Yeah, especially Trip. He was like almost crying when he left.
Yeah. So given that, it probably wouldn't be surprising that they would just come back.
Yeah, and Rancic and his daughter came back too, but they were good guys now.
Hmm.
And he came back because the monsters in this one were mutant orgs.
Yeah. Double trouble.
Yeah, and Rancic was the only one who could like cure him. And like the whole thing ended with Rancic getting his mutant part purged, so he was just like a normal guy now.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, good for him.
Yeah, I guess well, like you were saying, it kind of wraps up and finishes that arc, which they were pretty much almost to the point of whenever Time Force ended.
Yeah. Like, another thing about this season is that, like, Cole's backstory was pretty tragic because his parents got killed by the main guy. But the main guy used to be a friend of his parents.
This reminded me. You were saying the how Joel from Lightspeed Rescue and his
Yeah,
pursuing
I know what you're
Miss,
gonna say.
how that was creepy.
Yeah,
This whole situation, this was definitely creepy. With hold on, let me look up his name. The guy who became Master Org, he was basically creeping on Cole's mother.
yeah, and he thought that like he loved him, and no,
Not at
and
all.
like he just felt really slighted by everything going on. Where like if he had just accepted that he was part of this expedition to find Animus or Animarium or whatever it is, the animal island thing, and just like gone with it, everything would have been okay. Dr. Adler.
Yes, Dr. Abbott.
But no, he was like, oh man, I'm going to be angry. I'm going to eat these seeds and turn into a monster and kill my two friends.
All because I was rejected.
Yeah.
That's not a way to deal with the friend zone.
No, and like at the beginning of the season, Jindrax and Toxica are like, this guy's not really an org, is he?
No, yeah.
And he wasn't. And then he became one. And by that time, Jindrax and Toxica are like, we're done with this. We're just going to leave.
Which I don't blame them.
No. Like,
Well, and they also started realizing that they were considered expendable,
yeah.
and they weren't cool with it for obvious reasons.
No. And yeah, by the end of the season, they're like, we're just going to go and do our own thing. We're going to be our own people. And the Power Rangers just let them, which more power to them.
Yeah, I would actually kind of like to see that reoccur again
Yeah.
because it was, I guess, unexpected for the time, but usually don't uh, expect it from these kind of shows in general.
Yeah, like the last season had Ransik's daughter kind of become good at the end too.
Yeah, Nadira. Yeah, I just
Yeah,
looked her up.
yeah,
Uh,
Nadira.
well, she it was actually kind of the predecessor to this. Is that she realized? Well, she started the question: why do we hate regular humans?
Yeah,
Or why should I hate regular humans? I have no reason to, just because my dad has this vendetta.
yeah, and it was kind of funny because like the entire season she was all evil, and then it's just like in the last arc,
Yeah,
like she helped deliver her baby, and she saw the baby and was like, oh wait, maybe I don't have to be a jerk all the time.
the miracle of life is what shook her out of her funk.
Yeah. Okay, and I think that's all we have to say about Wild Force.
Oh, we probably should talk about the Forever Red episode.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that now. I like it's
Okay,
part of Wild Force, but I don't really consider it part of Wild Force because yeah, the
it's like
Forever Red episode. I mean, first it brings back Bulk and Skull.
yes,
Bulk, who you remember was on Terra Ventura,
mm-hmm.
so he got back somehow. We don't know how he got back. No one ever mentions it,
No,
but he's back.
don't ask questions, just accept it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad he and Skull came back. Or
Yeah,
Skull never left. They forgot Skull in Angel Grove when they went to Terra Ventura.
yeah,
Which, I mean, considering how Bulk and the Doctor were only like 3 episodes, that's fine.
yeah.
The important thing is that he's back now. Bulk's back, and he owns a resort where Tommy's hanging out. But, okay, yeah, so the premise of this crossover is that the Machine Empire is back. I mean, why bring those guys back? And they're led by the Beetleborgs.
Yes, yes. They they reformatted, they refurbished these Beetleborg outfits and said these guys were now agents of the Machine Empire.
Like, not even villains from Beetleborg. Like, the main Beetleborgs.
Yeah, you're right. I mean,
Like,
they kind of tried to change their. They like added some stuff to them, but you could tell it was the Beetleborgs.
yeah, like, I've seen like 2 episodes of Beetleborgs in my life, and just seeing them up there, I was like, are those the Beetleborgs? Like, I thought it would have been funny if they had the Beetleborgs and the VR Troopers as the villains in that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Well,
like the
hold
machine.
on. That reminds me. Were you saying that the Beetleborgs probably should have been villains on VR Troopers?
No, I was just saying that like it would have been funny if for the Forever Red they had the VR Troopers and the Beetleborgs as the Machine Empire generals who
Oh,
survived
okay.
or whatever.
Yeah, that would have been funny. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, the premise is that the Machine Empire is back. They they're trying to resurrect Zed Zord, the Serpentera.
Yes. Yes.
And
Which which
so
which always on Mighty Morphin they never really uh, it really wasn't useful because it required so much power that it would eventually run out of juice
yeah.
before it even really did anything.
Oh, one last thing about Wild Force. Now that's popped in my mind. Occasionally they'd show them running on all fours, and it was just the worst thing to see.
Yeah, which they took straight from the Sentai. I
That
believe
was
that was probably Sentai footage.
that's a bad move. That's a bad move they did. I did
You,
not
you
like
know
that.
you know what's funny is that Gingaman, the Sentai that Lost Galaxy was based on, they also had like this thing where they uh, struck a pose and then they kind of ran like animals or whatever. I don't know if they did that very often on Lost Galaxy, but it happens a lot on Gingaman. But
I
that's
don't think
because it,
they ever did on Lost Galaxy.
yeah. And you realize that the Sentai was an animal themed one, and then
Yeah,
and then Wild Force, its Sentai was Gal Ranger, and it was animals again. So, you know,
yeah, yeah. But yeah, yeah. Back to Forever Red. Like
yeah.
Tommy was hanging out with Bulk and Skull at their resort, and he got the call, and it's like, oh wow, I had to get together all the Red Rangers,
And they happen to know each other.
except for Rocky.
Yeah, nobody wants Rocky.
Poor Rocky. Like I think wasn't he the Ranger who got ran out of turbo too?
He uh, he suffered some kind of injury during the course of the Turbo movie,
Yeah,
and that's why we got Justin.
yeah. Like that's the only time anyone wanted Rocky instead.
So, I suppose a the whole injury thing could explain it, but technically, Rocky was the last color he was blue. But then, I say that would, if I go by that logic, that would exclude Jason from coming back because he ended up being gold.
Yeah,
Basically, they just because Rocky and Jason share the Mighty Morphin Red uh, powers, they figured, well, we want Austin St. John to come back.
yeah.
So
I did read that they had Rocky on tap,
yeah.
but like first off, if they had him, they couldn't use Austin St. John. But
Mm-hmm.
and if they couldn't get Austin, they would have gone harder for Rocky. But also, Rocky moved at one point, and they couldn't figure out where he went.
Oh, you mean
So,
you
like
mean
in real
that?
life,
Yeah, Steve Cardenas, that's the actor. So it sounds like he went into hiding for a little bit.
yeah, like he moved and didn't tell them where he was going. So, like, like I think they wanted him to show up for this, but they couldn't find him.
Yeah,
But yeah,
I wonder what that says about his opinion at the time.
yeah. But anyways, yeah, Tommy as probably one of the more popular Rangers, probably the most popular Ranger, like the Wolverine, the Power Rangers, pretty much.
Yeah,
And or the Optimus Prime, as you've said.
Yeah, I mean, I say that because usually if you mention Power Rangers to somebody like a casual, they'll probably know who Tommy is
Yeah.
at the very least.
Yeah, but yeah, he's here and he's bringing together all the other Red Rangers. There's Jason. There's TJ, the Turbo Ranger.
Turbo Red, yeah.
Yeah, Andros, Leo,
Space.
Carter, Cole, and also the even the Red Space Ranger from feels like 10 episodes they had.
Oh yeah. Dang, I can't remember his name. Yeah, the Red Alien Ranger.
Orico, it says.
Yes, Arico. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Andros. No, not Andros. Uh, Leo showed up with Orico.
Yes. Yeah.
Like they were on the moon already, and Orico and Leo just show up.
Well, of course, because
Oh,
they're
and
just
also the Quantum Ranger is there because his suit was red, so he got in a technicality.
yeah, pretty much a darker shade of red.
Yeah, and they're all just fine machine empire people and Beetleborgs. And then Cole gets to kill Serpentera.
Of course, and you realize the reason they did that is because he was the current Red Ranger. So
Yeah,
I
like
guess
it's
they,
definitely his show, so
yeah, pretty much. But I think what I like best about Forever Red was all the interactions they had,
yeah,
like the dynamic and the lines that they traded back and forth. It was fun,
yeah,
and it definitely felt like a culmination of those first 10 years.
and Alpha was there. Which Alpha?
Yeah,
Like I guess it's Alpha 6.
that probably because they were the one that was on Lost Galaxy, I believe. Both
Yeah,
both in space and Lost Galaxy.
yeah. Like,
We didn't get Alpha 5 till later.
yeah, yeah. We'll see Alpha 6 again later on, but for now, this is the last I see of him. He's only like one scene walking around in the background, pretty much.
Got to throw him in there.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's it for the pre-Disney era. So next
Yeah,
time we'll start talking about the Disney.
yeah. The reason we did these four is because Fox Kids was the station that or the block that showed Power Rangers for those first 10 years. And even though Wild Force was a transition season, this was whenever Disney started to be involved. There was still a bit of a tie to Saban.
Yeah.
So basically, these four we were talking about, they're the second half of this first Saban era.
Yeah, and next time we'll probably just take care of all of Disney at once.
Yeah, it's about 7 seasons, but the thing they start having less episodes so that you can go through them quicker.
Yeah, like I have like I'm not completely done with the Disney era at this point. I have like maybe 12 episodes left of the last season of it.
Yeah.
And when we talk about that next time, it's going to be a trip because they made so many choices.
Yeah. Well, and I guess I'll save it for that. But there was a reason why there was a lot of interesting decisions made.
Yeah.
But I did want to say one thing. Probably why Wild Force was lower on my ranking is that I feel it kind of took a step back and felt a little more juvenile, for lack of a better term.
It
Which
did.
again, which is funny I say that because Power Rangers is a kid show, but still there was this after In Space and through the subsequent seasons they had this kind of theme where they were starting to address like things like death and sacrifice or stuff like that, stuff that would probably be a little bit deeper than your average kids fare.
It felt more like the early seasons.
Yeah, it was a throwback, but I don't know. It just had moments where it lost me, but
Yeah,
it got me back towards the end because I think they definitely pulled out all the stops for the Wild Force finale, and they actually had some wrap ups for the characters. Like part of the reason why Taylor and uh, Alissa are my favorites from Wild Force is because I liked how their stories ended.
yeah. Like what was his name? Taylor just walks back to the Air Force and joins back up.
Yeah.
Alyssa becomes a teacher.
Well, and I also liked how they ended the show with her basically telling the story to
Yeah,
the kid. You know.
and no one and, like the kids are like, don't the kids not realize that she was a Power Ranger despite there being pictures and everything?
Well, you mentioned how Time Force, or actually, I think Lightspeed Rescue was the only one that was like where everybody knew that these guys were the Power Rangers.
Yeah,
There was, even though Time Force they came from organization in the future, they kind of had a little bit of a vigilante thing going on whenever they were hiding in their clock tower.
yeah, because no one was supposed to know because they were from the future.
Yeah, and then Wild Force, they kind like you said, actually, it went back to the basics in a way because nobody really knew that these guys were these Wild Force Power Rangers because
Yeah,
their base was basically a floating island in the sky and mythical too.
yeah.
So
I don't remember what happened to Cole on the show. I know that the Blue and Black Rangers just went on vacation together.
yeah, because they were good buddies,
Yeah,
which that was fun. Uh, they basically ended Cole's whole thing. He visited his parents' grave. He had like some parting words, and he also basically visited the grave of Dr. Adler, Master Org, uh, and he basically forgave him. I think that was basically the note they left him on.
so it's just unsatisfying all around.
Well, I mean, I guess it was a good message that he forgave the main villain of the show, but yeah,
Yeah.
he was
Like,
he was pretty unremarkable.
so who is your least favorite Ranger from these 4 episodes, these 4 seasons?
These 4 seasons.
I think mine is pretty clear.
Yeah, I think he's definitely on there. None of the except for Max a little bit, none of the Blue Rangers really made an impression in each of these the first three of these four.
I mean, the Lightspeed one was all right. He had that whole thing going on with the mermaid.
Yeah. So actually, to answer your question with one person, uh, probably Cole.
Yeah,
Probably Cole is my least favorite. So we're agreed on that.
yeah. So who is your least favorite from the Saban era? Cole or Justin?
Oh man, that's a death match for you. Uh, I don't know. Maybe they're pretty much equal.
I mean, I think Justin edges out Cole just a little bit because I mean, in the last few episodes of Turbo, he made like a really big sacrifice so the others could get into space to chase after Divatox and stuff.
Hmm. That's a good point.
So he actually performed heroically.
So
But
I
they
get. I Go ahead.
both had that but he also had that whole child genius prodigy everyone loves him thing going on, which was not great.
Yeah, but to your point, I think the sacrifice to a degree that he made kind of ones up Cole. So I guess
Yeah.
Cole's still at the bottom.
And I guess Justin didn't go on to kill someone with a katana.
No, he just got fat.
Yeah, I mean, don't we all?
At some point, let ourselves go.
Okay, should we go over our rankings real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go first. Like my favorite was In Space, followed by the original iteration, and the Lost Galaxy and Wild Force, but those are pretty much interchangeable. Then Zeo, because I mean Zeo is all right, but the Machine Empire. If Zeo didn't have the Machine Empire, it would be higher than it is.
Yeah.
And
Well,
we'll
because
post these with our video and podcast too.
it's like I said, Zeo is basically an extension of Mighty Morphin. So if it's like your second favorite minus the Machine Empire bit, it makes sense that it would probably be higher up minus that.
Yeah. I have it as number 5. Then followed by Lightspeed Rescue, Time Force, and then Turbo. And Turbo, nothing about Turbo really grabbed me. And also, Justin.
Yeah, and it's like we said, it's not as bad as the next mutation, but
No.
it still wasn't a bright spot for Power Rangers.
Yeah. Okay, and like I have your list up too here.
Okay, good, because I was trying to bring it up, but it's not working. Go ahead and read it off.
Oh, you have Turbo on top.
Oh no!
No, you have the original seasons In Space, Zeo, Lightspeed Rescue, Lost Galaxy, Time Force, Wild Force, and then Turbo at the bottom.
Yeah, and it's like I told you, probably because I will probably watch these seasons again at some point. Uh, well, some I've already rewatched, but I feel a fair bit are interchangeable. So my opinions will probably change with, especially the ones in the middle. But I put Mighty Morphin at the top because even if it's flawed, I still just overall like that premise the most, and the themes. Well, I mean the aesthetic is still really my favorite out of everything.
Yeah, I mean, I do really like Mighty Morphin. That's why I put second, but like I just
In
In
Space is better
Space.
dramatically.
Yeah.
It has the franchise really had some growth with that. So I wouldn't blame you for putting that number one.
Yeah, and I probably would have put Lightspeed Rescue and Time Force higher if it wasn't for the whole boring Zords and government mandated Power Ranger thing. Okay, anything to close off on?
You got any final thoughts? Oh, do you want to? We did like the least favorite. Do you want to go through each season and say who our favorites are?
Oh, we did that for this one, but yeah, we'll do it for the ones we didn't do for
Okay.
the Zordon era.
Yeah.
So for Power Rangers, and we'll just include all those 3 seasons, all the Power Rangers, all the Mighty Morphins.
Well, it's like you said, it technically is one series.
Yeah. So my favorite from those 3 was Trini.
And I had 2. My favorites were Tommy, which is an obvious answer, and Trini.
Yeah. Yeah, for Zeo, it's Tommy, because, I mean, who else am I going to choose?
Well,
Rocky, Adam.
Rocky. No. So just Tommy for you, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Zeo,
Kat, I like Kat, but, I mean, she didn't really make much of an impression, really.
Well, she made more of an impression in Zeo than Mighty Morphin, but she was kind of brought in like right before Mighty Morphin ended too. So
yeah, as an evil Catwoman.
Yeah,
it's never adequately explained.
Nothing never is on Power Rangers.
No, like we talked about that a little bit before in that podcast, so we won't go into it now.
Yeah. Okay, so for me, Zeo, again, I'm trying to pick 2. It would probably be Tommy and Jason, because I did like how they brought Jason back.
Oh, I forgot Jason was there.
Yeah, yeah. It's because, well, and it's like you said, it's because the whole Tray of Triforia thing is how they started the Gold Ranger arc out.
Okay, how about Turbo?
Turbo. Okay, let's see.
Like there were two groups there.
Well, yeah, you're right. They carried over to In Space. Okay, so in that regard, let's just say uh, our favorites from both Turbo and In Space. Uh, so Turbo, Cassie, because
Yeah,
she would also be my one of my picks for In Space. Okay, so actually, I'll do it this way. So Cassie is one, and then because there's overlap with In Space, I did like Andros from In Space, and so final one from Turbo would probably be TJ. And it's funny because TJ and Cassie were actually introduced together on Turbo.
yeah.
They
And it
were
was
on the
so
bus.
obvious they were going to be Power Rangers.
Yeah, yeah,
Like it was completely obvious what was going to happen. Like Cassie was my favorite from both of those.
yeah.
But yeah, in the Zordon era, it became increasingly obvious when someone was going to become a Power Ranger.
Yeah. Well, again, that's that whole kids show. They don't want to challenge the audience too much, I guess.
Yeah, we had like 14 people as the suspects for the Gold Ranger.
Yeah.
They make weird choices with Power Rangers. I think we've said that a few times, but
Hey, but
yeah.
it's still fun.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that's it for this. We'll be back at some point with our thoughts on the Disney era Power Rangers. That's from Ninja Storm all the way to Power Rangers RPM.
Yep. So 7 seasons.
And yeah, they're shorter seasons. Most of them have less Rangers. One has a lot more.
Yeah.
And like this list has like a re-edit of the Power Rangers, so we're not gonna deal with that. Why? We've already.
I actually didn't even watch it. You talking about the Mighty Morphin reformatting they did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't see
Uh,
any reason to.
well, actually, you know what? I'll save that for the Disney era podcast because there's a reason why they did that.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about that later. All right. Well, yeah, that is Lord Magnificent and Trevor signing off for Retro Revelations. Thanks for watching and or listening. We
Trevor
will.
Thompson, commoner.
Yeah, we will see you later.
Thanks, guys.